hope your night is going amazing. Welcome to OSRPG Presents a Blades in the Dark story, episode 16. We are very excited to bring you tonight's episode, and we're going to get rolling right off the bat because we got a lot of game to cover tonight. So let's go to intros. Go ahead.
My name is Angela, also known as Gangrel Kitty, and I'll be playing Reaper tonight.
Hello, I'm Ryan, otherwise known as Voice Ryleased, and I will be playing Martin MacCalister.
I'm Doug, and I'll be playing Ezra Arcady, otherwise known as Blinder.
And I'm Xylus, and I'll be playing Carver.
And of course, I'm Michael. I will be your storyteller this evening. And a quick shameless plug here. If you have not done it yet, check out our YouTube. We have all our latest episodes. If you have lost them in the VODs on Twitch and you want to know what happened in the story on Blades, feel free to check it out. We have all of the episodes, including the intro episodes, on our YouTube. Right now, we're trying to get to 100 subscribers, and I believe we just hit 51, so we're just over halfway there. With all that out of the way, let's tell a Blades in the Dark story. Last week, in episode 15, our cast of characters had sought out a group known as the Wraiths. They were given a task by the Billhooks in order to pay back what was owed to the Billhooks after their vanquishing of a gang known as the Toads. They sought out the Wraiths, eventually finding them. They arrived in the Wraiths' lair in a place called Bliss Lane. They were led, in a sense, into a hidden antechamber underneath the simple clothing store that Martin had found where people disappeared into the back. Upon inspection, and with the Wraith's guidance, they found that that back wall in that room opened up. The antechamber was grand. Old architecture, potentially dating back to the beginning of the Night Market District and perhaps Duskfall as well. What ensued was a series of questions, riddle, and ultimately, what was found was that the Wraiths were interested mostly in having the Risen, our cast's crew, prove that their reputation was more than just rumor, that they were the people that they said they were. And although the conversation was tumultuous, although our cast was perhaps angry at the end, they accomplished their task. After diving deep down beneath the Wraiths' headquarters, in a sense, their lair, into a vast aqueduct, in which they found what was known to Blinder, at least seemingly, as a spirit well. Blinder had very little experience with such things. He had only heard of them in rumor, knowing them to be very rare. The situation was strange, and it was solved in an even stranger way. The information that was gleaned was that perhaps the spirit well was not so natural. After the situation was handled, Blinder and the rest of our cast found symbols very similar to what Carver had found previously in the place that he went looking for Connor within. The symbols are obviously tied to Blinder's rituals, to his studies, to his theorems. After moving all of these pieces that apparently had weakened the ghost field in this area deep in the aqueduct, they then ascended back up the stairway into the Wraith's antechamber. The task was done. There was a bit more back and forth conversation, and at the end of it, something was mentioned about Blinder and his connection to Skurlock. And also a question was posed by the Wraiths. A question of virtue, a question of ethics, regarding if our cast, if our characters would be comfortable potentially ruining Geneva Burke's life, the magistrate who they now had blackmail information on that would be presumably delivered to the billhooks. There was an argument later on as the crew left, heading back to Dunslow, regarding what they would do. Some agreed, some disagreed, some tried to shoulder the burden themselves. And at the end, nothing was really solved. No decision was really made. And so they found themselves back in Dunslow. Eventually. It seemed that Martin's previous connection to now becoming known as a local of Dunslow was starting to catch up to him. They found themselves waiting at a blue coat checkpoint. The individuals were holding a wanted poster with Martin's visage. The poster said, Martin MacCalister, wanted for first-degree murder. They, of course, made their way through it, Martin slipping out into the shadows and disappearing, finding his way along the canalway, until they eventually all found themselves back at their hideaway. A discussion was had, and eventually, while the rest of the crew was diving deep into esoteric theorems and thoughts, when they were teaching Martin to reach beyond himself, to seek out what is known as the Ghost Field, Reaper took the blackmail information secretly and disappeared into the night. She arrived at Candle Street, the place where they had once met Corin before. Her and Corin moved off to a secret location outside of the butchery. She delivered the information to Corin, and it was revealed to her that Corin had lied to our crew. This was not the task that the billhooks wanted them to do. In fact, Corin's own men, loyal to him, had performed the task for our crew that Aaron had expected them to perform. This task seemed to be tied directly to Corin, regarding his desire to free his father from prison. And only now, by gathering this information, by our cast succeeding at their mission, and by Reaper being willing to give it to him, he would hopefully be able to accomplish those ends secretly. At the end of the night, as Reaper found their way moving back home, a familiar face poked out of a carriage, speaking their name, Ross. Presumably a nickname or something. The individual was Ramira, a childhood friend of Reaper's, who they had not seen in some time, but Ramira quickly reminded them that they had seen each other a few nights ago, the night that Reaper had lost themselves into a haze of partying and drugs. Ramira invited Reaper to a party. They went back to Dunslow, they invited the others, and no one else wished to join other than Carver. And then eventually they left, being taken to a private tailor shop. Not the same one that we've met before, Elijah Penn, but a different one, an Aruvian one. Very professional. And then we found ourselves outside of a grand building in the night market, beautiful. a villa of sorts. It has a surrounding wall that keeps the yard and the area surrounding this building away from the street, away from the passerbyers. There are 2 grand doors that are open and cracked, with guards standing there, dressed in Aruvian military uniform, traditionally. There are Akarosian soldiers outside, however. And there are people coming in and going out. And that is where we start this evening. Reaper dressed to the nines. Carver dressed to the nines, having been given a private suite in order to change and then made their way here. Let's go into it a little bit. I'm not going to require you to give too much detail, but Reaper, did you decide on a suit again this evening, or did you decide to go for a dress?
No, I decided to go for the dress this time.
Oh, okay. Is there any sort of specific detail you'd like to add to the dress or to the accessories that Reaper might have chosen to go along with it?
Elegant, sleek, and simple. Probably simple jewelry, just letting the dress talk.
Okay. And Carver, being given sort of the run of the tailor shop, in a sense, was there any specific detail you would like to add to the way that Carver was dressed this evening?
Probably a hat with a more tactical function, in the sense that he would probably use it to obscure his face if he were to see anyone he would find familiar.
Okay, so just in case someone he may know from his previous life is here, he wishes to have a hat that he can perhaps pull down over his brow in order to hide his face.
Perhaps high collars as well.
High collars, etc. Okay, wonderful. The 3 of you enter. The Akarosian guards that were driving the carriage and the guard, in a sense, stay on the carriage, taking it around the corner. Ramira, as I had said before, is wearing a form-fitting, beautiful red dress. She's wearing a shawl of fur of some type. It seems to be like fox with a fox head on one side, which you presume, knowing the state that the world is in, having furs of animals is very, very expensive. And she wears it proudly. Walking through the gates, the 3 of you push ahead. Moving past the sort of villa open area of the yard that has a beautiful fountain in it. There are chairs and benches, people sitting in it. There are Akarosians, Severosi, Eruvians, many carrying different styles and fashions, perhaps more familiar to their own country or their own tradition or culture. As you enter into the building proper, it has a grandiose nature. It is obviously some sort of home, or at least at one point it had been a home and had been turned into a consulate, a sort of embassy for the Eruvians. The architecture inside is different than the architecture outside. It's obvious that the building was built or changed in some ways in order to express a sort of Eruvian architecture, but because perhaps the bones of the building were previously owned, created, etc. from Akaros, that it had a different look. As you step inside, though, Reaper, not being expressly familiar with Eruvian, the country, it was a very long time ago that you were there, there is a very different appeal to the architecture. The rooms are high and rounded, vaulted ceilings. The doorways the same way. There seems to be very little doors in any area of the downstairs. It's very open air, which makes the space feel even larger than it is. There is, as you enter into this sort of foyer with a grand staircase that goes up to some other rooms, there's a large ballroom to one side, a lounge to the other, a narrow sort of walkway that goes back to what you would presume to be some sort of kitchen or storage area or something like that. Above you, you see a grand, beautiful chandelier that's hanging through a skylight. The chandelier is beset by candles that are flickering, sending a warm yellow glow into the room. There are people that everywhere in a sense, talking, laughing, enjoying themselves. And as you cross through the threshold of this front door, you see guards on either side. One of them looks to Ramira and then whispers something to her. She whispers back. And then he announces in a grand voice, Madam Ramira Garza and escort. And the three of you go walking in. You realize that this sort of thing continues to happen throughout the night. At different times, 5 minutes may pass, 10 minutes may pass, but it's as though when new guests arrive, they are announced so that all may know who has arrived. You find yourselves, in a sense, sort of following Ramira for a short time, in which she's, shaking hands and saying hello to people. You hear a conversation going on, from what you can tell, whether you're gathering food or perhaps getting a drink, that this seems to be some sort of celebration. You hear the term Unification Day. And although you're somewhat familiar with Eruvian culture, Reaper, so you would perhaps know what Unification Day is. Carver, you have never quite heard of this. Unification Day, Reaper, is the day that the Eruvian country, it was once the Eruvian Empire, was diplomatically brought into the grasp of the Akros Empire. Unlike Scoveland, who was actively conquested, the Eruvian country, in a sense, sort of understanding what was to come, instead of engaging in war, simply diplomatically worked out a deal with the Akros Empire. And the day that their, in a sense, treatise was signed, in which they became members and citizens of the empire, the day was known then as the Eruvian Unification Day. It falls on more or less the same day. It sort of has, for Eruvians specifically, very much an Independence Day sort of celebration. Spirits are high, people are enjoying themselves. There's a sense of patriotism. And although the patriotism may be towards Eruvian culture and history, there's still this sort of overlying Akaros connection constantly. But with all those descriptions out of the way, and eventually when Ramira finds themselves being dragged off by guests and things like that for moments at a time, what do Reaper and Carver do?
Probably mingle.
Okay. Just trying to make
Carver will
small talk. Oh, go ahead.
Carver will probably keep himself not too far away from Reaper. But he'll mostly just observe. He'll interact somewhat, but for the most part, he seems to just be there.
Okay. Excellent.
With Reaper, my aim is basically just small talk, gossip, what this kind of society talks about or what's in the news, basically, just like reading a newspaper.
Oh, sure. What are you introducing yourself as, Reaper? Because obviously Reaper is not the sort of term that's going to fit in amongst these people. Would Reaper perhaps...
She would introduce herself as her actual name.
So what name is she giving?
Roshanak.
Okay. Her full name or just Roshanak?
Her last name is Ayari, Ayari.
So that is a name you've never heard before, Carver, but you hear Reaper introducing themselves as. And Carver, same question.
How am I introducing myself?
Yes, what name are you going by this evening?
Carver Bouchier.
Okay. Excellent. So you mingle, You engage in small talk, you have a few drinks. The food is excellent. Although there isn't necessarily like full plate sort of thing. It's mostly finger foods and things like that. But there are excellent foods here. Carver has not experienced a lot of these foods before. There are a few Aquarosian dishes, which would be something he's more akin to. But Reaper, there is a reminder of your childhood sort of in a lot of these foods. They're very, they're historically and culturally part of the Eruvian sort of palate in a sense, the sort of food that they make. Although it is much higher quality, it's not like, street food or anything like that, but it is still very good, and it sort of has this nostalgia feeling for you when you taste it, just because places in Duskfall outside of Night Market, and you really haven't done a whole lot of shopping around Night Market, tend to not have authentic Eruvian food, which is, as I explained before, sort of a culture of Spain mixed with French heritage, right? There's this sort of culmination. So if you think about those sort of foods combined in different ways, there are different flavor combinations and things like that other cultures may just not specifically try or use. Of course, unless you live in a neighborhood that is mostly Eruvians or something. But yeah, so there's this, as I said, there's this sort of nostalgia there for you. Eventually, there's a moment of silence as a woman enters the room, the doorway, really. Everyone turns and looks to her, almost surprised to see her. She's a beautiful woman, albeit probably in her 50s. She is still very trim, very fit. Obviously, she takes very good care of herself. Her skin is beautiful and almost shining in a sense. Her hair is a jet sort of gray and white mixture, which she has set into beautiful sort of braid coming back the back of her head. And she has a younger woman with her. And as they enter, they're both dressed. They're obviously Aquarosian individuals. By the looks, their features, things in that variety. They're obviously both related, as the younger girl seems to have similar features in the nose and the chin. Also similar hair, but her hair is like blonde, very bright blonde. And the name that you hear is Madame Strangford and daughter Lily Strangford. People are greeting them as they enter, as though they didn't expect them to attend. They are brought in. They are... Even Ramira at one point, once they're settled down, walks over and greets them, and it's like, oh, very nice to see you. But eventually, as that sort of conversation is going on, there's another announcement that you hear that says, now that all of the guests have arrived, please let us welcome our host and hostess. Our host, Luis Diaz Lagos. And a man steps forward, a tall, probably, as I had said, probably like 50s, as a lot of these people are. They seem to be older, but jet black hair with bits of gray in it. He has beautiful sort of brown skin. His hair and facial hair is kept perfectly clean, perfectly cut, chiseled jawline. And he stands with sort of his elbow locked with a beautiful Eruvian woman of a similar age. Her hair is still perfectly dark and black. There's sort of browns in it a little bit. Her eyes are dark and piercing in a sense, as though she's looking across the whole room. There's this air of grace about both of them. They're dressed miraculously, beautifully. And then the woman is announced, Iria Rowan Lagos. They both enter, but they did not enter from the front door. They entered from the stairway above, and they come walking down as sort of everyone is clapping gently and welcoming them. They are greeting people. And you notice something, Reaper, both Reaper and Carver, as you peer across. There is an incredible familiarity that you see in this woman's face, and in some of the features on the man. It's almost as though you've met them before, but you can't quite place what the connection is in this moment. It takes some time, and then you remember the name that was said for the woman. Rowan. You've met Rowan before. Madam Rowan. The red sash lieutenant you had met. And as you sort of think about it, I won't require you to roll or anything like that. As you think about it, you go back to the discussions that were had. You remember that Mercy pointed out that her and Madame Rowan were sisters. And then the familiarity clicks, and you realize these are Mercy's parents, the hosts of this party, the ambassadors of Aruvia. They come walking down, greeting people. Eventually they find Ramira. You're somewhere close by, we'll say. Ramira greets them by name, embraces them, kisses their cheeks. They greet her with a familial bond, in a sense, as though she is perhaps one of their daughters in a way. She then turns to you, Reaper, and she says, "Oh, I wanted you to meet my friend." She brings you forward. "This is Roshanak, a good friend of mine," she says to them, and they both greet you. "Louise," the man says, holding his hand out to shake yours. But he takes your hand. Yeah, would you reach in for that handshake? He's expecting a sort of like ladies.
A little bit, and then I'll catch myself.
Okay. And then there's this awkward moment for a second where he goes to do that, and then you like catch yourself, and he's like, "Oh." And then he nods. So he doesn't kiss it or anything like that. He just nods to you in that way. And then his wife and obviously Mercy's mother reaches forward and shakes your hand very tenderly as well, grasping your hand in both of her hands. She like takes your palm and then grasps it. "Oh, it's very nice to meet you," she says. "Any friend of Ramira's is a friend of ours." "Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off," she says. "Please."
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
No problem. Are you enjoying yourself this evening?
Oh, absolutely. Excellent. And then I'll look over to Carver, and I'll look back.
Someone else, they say?
Yes, he's very shy. His name is Carver.
Oh, I see. They sort of motion you over, Carver, from behind Reaper, we'll say.
I will move forward and I will make an introduction and bow.
Louise, the husband, father, in a sense, looks at you and says, "You look so familiar. Where have I met you before?" The people nearby, hearing that, start to sort of whisper, looking at Carver, trying to catch a glimpse of his face, in a sense. There are other conversations going on. It's not like everyone's staring at you or something, but people nearby are tuning into the conversation.
I actually hear that a lot.
Ah, one of those faces.
One of those faces.
I see. Excellent. A man of Akarosian heritage, I can see.
Thank you for having us here tonight.
They take that awkward moment where Carver doesn't respond to them, and then Reaper sort of interrupts, and they sort of press on as though it's not something that wants to be discussed or something. Like perhaps there was a faux pas that they didn't realize. "Oh yes, of course. We need to make other introductions. Our apologies.
Oh, of course.
But it was very nice to meet you, and Mr. Bouchier, yes?" Louise says.
"Indeed.
Perhaps you would join me in the smoking room and we can further discuss our strange familiarity, I would say." I feel like I know you. Maybe a brother of yours or something?
Unlikely. But I will join you nonetheless.
Okay. I'll meet you there in 20 or so minutes.
Very well.
They both nod to you, shaking hands again, and head off. Iria stops
I'm
for a
gonna look
moment.
over and scowl.
Sure.
And I'll be looking just
Very-
like this.
Just like a...
Iria sort of, following behind Louise, stops for a second and turns to Reaper and says, I would love to talk with you a bit more. This may not be the place, and I don't want to be too frank, but I've heard of your friend, and I presume I've heard of you. We have many children, and we have heard that one of our children happens to be friends of this man, and of a woman that matches, in a sense, your description. Perhaps we could discuss such things.
Of course.
A mother worries, she says.
Of course. Absolutely.
And then she goes walking off. Afterwards, you had not noticed it before, but Malone, you now see him pass them. As they move past you, you see Malone sort of trailing behind them. He had been standing at the bottom of the staircase back a ways, almost like watching everything, but you hadn't quite seen him because everyone was looking up to them. But you now see Malone trailing behind them, looking everywhere, very much like a security, in a sense. He is dressed very, very nice. He could easily be one of these guests. It's just in the way that he's holding himself. It's obvious to you that he seems to be working currently. The way that he's holding himself, the way that he's looking amongst the crowd. Yeah. He goes following them, and you'll find yourselves now with Ramira for a brief moment. And she looks over at Carver and she says, for receiving a compliment from the host and hostess, you seemed rather perturbed. Is something the matter?
Oh, I'm unsure of how to act in these environments. This is not exactly the typical place I find myself.
Oh, I see. Is this your man? She says to Reaper.
No.
Oh. Perhaps there was some confusion. I meant, is he your bodyguard?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Yes, of course. Your man, in a sense of your body man. Someone who
okay.
guards you, in a sense. That makes sense, then. I will keep that in mind. My apologies, Carver. I thought you were Ross's date this evening. And so, perhaps I put you in a bit of an awkward situation. I did not mean to.
My apologies for not being more clear about my status.
You're fine. You hold yourself well enough, though. That's very good. Ramira locks arms with Reaper now, out of nowhere, sort of just turns, locking arms with Reaper, and says, have you thought of a husband? She says, sort of looking out over the ballroom, all of these people, male, female, etc. A partner, perhaps?
No, not really.
I often think about it.
Yeah?
But then I look at my peers, and I understand why I haven't decided to marry anyone.
Why is that?
Look at them. And she gets close when she says it and whispers, they're all so boring. She starts...
True.
Oh, you say that. You're like, it's true. And she gets close to you and she's like, she starts whispering little tidbits. Nothing super bad, in a sense, but just little tidbits about different people. And she's like, that man snores. She says, pointing to a beautiful man. she does this weird thing. You know, she starts pointing out all these little things that people do, these little tics or things that annoy Ramira, it would seem. She starts pointing out all of their flaws, sort of whispering them to you. Does Reaper just sit there listening to it? Or
Yeah, she just
Okay.
listens to it and goes, okay. That's, wow. Gross.
You can tell by the end of it when sort of someone comes to interrupt Ramira introducing himself, she stops. Ramira, although enjoys some of the company that she engages with, there are quite a few others that she doesn't particularly care for. There are obviously hidden reasons perhaps behind, but she chose to pick at the little details about the things that people did. Their marital affairs, the way that they lie, their poker faces, the little tics that they do that she seems to pick apart. In time, though, as I said, someone takes her off, and Reaper and Carver find themselves alone again in a party surrounded by people.
Well, I best be getting off to that smoking room.
Yeah. Toodles.
Carver goes walking off to the smoking lounge. What does Reaper do in the meantime?
Reaper will sit back and mingle with whoever comes up to her, but not really go out and seek that. Because she's got that conversation with Mom. So she's
Sure.
kind of thinking about that for a minute.
So she's sort of being, in a sense, like a wallflower of sorts?
Yeah, a little bit.
Eventually, as time goes on for Reaper, the blonde woman, the one introduced as Lily Strangford, will eventually notice Reaper. And Reaper notices her. She is doing something very similar. It's as though she's not quite interested in this party either. She's sort of sitting alone. At one point, there were a group of young men coming over and interacting with her, and she, of course, said things, and there was a bit of laughter and things like that, but eventually they all went away. There's this moment where you're both sitting by yourselves. She looks at you, noticing you, and you sort of catch her eye at the same moment. She stands up, walking over, and sits down at a chair at one of the tables. Your date walked away, she says.
It's my bodyguard.
Oh, I see.
You could probably kill me right now and he wouldn't be able to help.
What?
Just saying, throwing that out there.
You're very candid.
It's true.
What was your name?
Roshanak.
Oh, Shanak. It's very beautiful.
Thank you. And you are Lily?
Lillian. My mother
Lillian?
prefers they refer to me as Lily, but Lillian.
Lillian.
Are you part of one of the families here?
No, just a guest.
Oh, I see. You are a member of the consulate in some way?
No,
Oh, just a guest?
just a guest.
Basically, someone asked you to be their +1, and you didn't want to refuse?
That's kind of the idea, yeah.
So you didn't really want to be here either?
Yeah, well, I did want to be here and I didn't want to be here, you know? It's glamorous and wonderful, and then it's not.
Yes, quickly the polish fades away, and you see it for what it is. There's we are those with in a city without. And although some celebrate, others remember on days like this why we chose to be this way. The Eruvians, in all of their brilliance, saw the coming storm and joined what they believed to be the winning side, and they chose correctly and have reaped a bounty for it. But the same can be said for Scoveland. I mean, my father would never agree, but we are destroying that country. No one else wants to talk about it. Everyone wants to pretend it's not happening. But it's happening. And here we are, throwing our little parties, having finger foods, dancing, talking about marriages. Parents trying to barter us off to other important families. I apologize. I didn't mean to weigh so much on you.
No need to apologize. That's what was going through my mind too. Pretty much. You just said it better than I could.
Yeah.
What is the status of the conquest of Scoveland right now?
Well, I mean, they've been conquested 2 years ago, but they still suffer under the rule of the Akros Empire. Their lives have really not improved. Plus, if you take what is told about the facilities there and warehouses, it would seem that it's much worse than simply a bad economy. Of course, as I said, no one wants to talk about it.
No.
Blood.
Because
Oh, go ahead.
if you don't see it, it's not happening.
It's true. It's also much bigger, too. I mean, Leviathan blood is the fuel of our nation. And without Scoveland, or a place where we could set our factories to refine it from its raw form, we wouldn't have it. We wouldn't have these. She says, pointing at some of the electrical lights that you see around the place. Of course, there's candlelight setting a warm yellow glow, but you also see there are other lanterns that are electric lanterns. Set into the walls themselves, glowing with this sort of daylight, white vibrancy. We wouldn't have the towers, we wouldn't have automobiles.
It's true. And unfortunate. And unfair.
I agree.
So
Well,
are
okay.
these parties happening often?
Today is a specific celebration, but there's always usually something going on. Not perhaps every night, but during the weekends, there usually always seems to be something going on.
I like to keep culturally connected to my land.
I would think, from what I saw, that you and Ramir are quite close. I believe that such a connection would probably help you accomplish your goal.
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, I've chatted your ear off. I should probably go.
Of course. It was good meeting you.
It was good meeting you, too.
She reaches over to shake her hand.
And Lillian will shake Reaper's hand. And she gets up and walks off, grabbing some food and things and talking to people.
Before she goes, Reaper will be like, if you need anything ever, let me know.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
In the other room, Carver finds himself. There are people in there smoking, male, female, etc., for those that wish to imbibe. There is opium being smoked. There are cigars, cigarettes, whatever vice people have. Carver finds himself in there amongst the smoke. Is there a specific indulgence that Carver is trying?
No, Carver is just kind of slowly pacing about the room, kind of investigating what's going on, looking at certain things. He's keeping his hands folded in front of him as he moves about the room, just waiting.
Yeah. There are other people in there mingling and doing similar things, so no one really pays too much attention to Carver in a sense. Like him looking around. They presume he's just perhaps walking around and looking at the different, busts and art and things like that that are set into this beautiful building, most of which is Eruvian art by Eruvian artists, painters, sculptors, etc. Eventually, Carver hears a voice. It's Louise. Mr. Bouchier.
Louise.
Carver was your first name, yes?
Yes.
Very nice to meet you. A drink? A smoke?
Nice to meet you as well. Yeah. Perhaps.
A drink of choice?
I will sample whatever you're having.
Well, I will choose something from my homeland then. And he goes off and he comes back with a very nice rum. It is smooth, but a very bold flavor. It is extremely top shelf. Like, you probably couldn't buy this unless you were in the night market in the really nice neighborhoods or in Bright Zone specifically. He passes you a glass of it with a single ice cube set into it. He holds one himself, cheersing to you, and then sips at it. He starts to bite the end of a cigar a little bit, and then strikes a match and starts to light it, puffing in on the cigar. No problem. My wife says these things will kill me, he says, puffing on the cigar.
Anything taken in more than moderation probably can.
Fair point.
But that's why they're called indulgences.
True. So, to the topic. You seem very familiar.
I'm
I don't
not
remember
entirely
you.
sure where I would be familiar from.
Are you a military man of some type?
I don't know.
I was told you were a bodyguard to Miss Ayari.
Yes, but this is far from military work.
Oh, yes, but quite a few of the bodyguards I know began in the military, moved on.
I have much more meager beginnings than that.
I see. Where are your beginnings?
Char Hollow.
Char Hollow. I don't wish to offend you, but you're a terrible liar.
Perhaps I'm just embarrassed about where my beginnings actually come from.
A man from Charho, so highly educated. The way you hold yourself, your etiquette, your flair. You must have had a very good tutor then.
Or you can just watch enough idiots to learn how to actually behave.
I see. Your father was an officer in the military, I presume. You learned from him?
No.
Your brothers?
None to speak of.
Oh, I see. Hmm.
Well, I wish to apologize for any potential offense. I didn't wish to correct you in front of everyone who was listening so closely. But I am not Akaros.
Where are you from, then?
Carver will turn his shades down just a little bit so he can see his eyes.
Oh. A man from far away. It makes sense why your story is so terrible.
We are quite good at terrible stories, aren't we?
I've never met
Some of the
Tycherosi.
tales told around the campfire are much better than this, but...
I've never met a Tycherosi before. It's very nice to meet you. I've heard
It's
of
nice
them.
to meet you as well.
Are you hoping to establish some sort of consulate for your people? I'm unsure. Do the Tycherosi have nobility?
If we did, I wouldn't know of it.
I see.
And I would be far from a speaker for our people.
Sure. A Tycherosi who finds themselves amongst these circles must have friends in high places.
Precisely, friends in high places.
Well,
I'm very much just a lowly, if not very charismatic Tycherosi.
well, your secret is safe with me, friend.
I appreciate that.
Would you do me a favor, though? And he leans in very close. Malone has told me that you are friends with my daughter. She may not wish to return home or to her golden cage, as she called it. But it does not mean that I do not care for her and love her. Would you do me the honor of making sure she stays safe?
I would lay down my life for her.
What name is she going by these days? What name do you know her as?
Suffice it to say that whatever name she has told me has been something of a veil which keeps her safe. To
Then I
ruin that
presume-
here might do her a danger.
I understand your point. I'll leave that to you then. Just let her know that her father cares for her. If she should ever doubt such things.
I will, sir.
Should you need anything of me or my people, you have but to ask Mr. Bouchier.
I appreciate that.
I must make niceties, though, so enjoy your evening.
I
He
will,
says,
and I hope you do the same.
and have a smoke. That box over there, he says, pointing to a fine wooden box set off behind a sort of gold inlaid cabinet. It's old wood, beautiful, dark, but there's these sort of inlays of gold that are tracing out these beautiful designs. There's glass windows, and inside are all these different boxes. You presume it's probably some sort of hermetically sealed or close to cigar cage, in a sense. At that, he shakes your hand and then goes walking off.
I'll go and take his recommendation.
Sure.
Need something to take the edge off that conversation.
Sure. Later, Reaper finds himself mingling and such, and then Iria approaches them. My dear, can we speak in private?
Yeah.
She guides Reaper through the house, through a back corridor, through an open door. The hallway to this one isn't like servants' hallways or anything. It's very nice, very beautiful. The door is open, and you see a beautiful garden as you step out. There is a fountain, a small fountain that flows down into a sort of pool. The water there's a bit of steam coming off of it, and you can tell that the water is quite warm. The pool is not super big. It seems, in a sense like a jacuzzi or a hot tub. More meant to be sitting in than actually swam in. The garden on the other side of the yard is beautiful. Roses, flowers of all types. Perfectly kept. She walks amongst them, sort of looking at them, as she, brings you along. You're quite quiet.
It's been a very busy night.
These parties always are.
Yeah. So what's on your mind?
I presume a similar conversation to what Louise is having with your man. I just wanted to know how my daughter is doing.
Better than the rest of us.
Better than the rest of you. Why is that?
Oh, yeah. She's just more skilled, it seems like. She has a better head on her shoulder.
Malone says something of the opposite, though.
Yeah.
He says she's been drinking more.
Yeah, we probably should be stepping.
What was the last bit you said? Sorry, I looked
said-
away for a moment.
We probably should take a step back from that. I've been inadvertently contributing to that.
I see. You're close enough with her that she would listen to your counsel?
I think so.
She spoke of a man. A few men, in fact. Well, she didn't. She mentioned friends. It was Malone who specifically mentioned the 4 of you, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
Is she still staying with you?
Yes.
Oh, I see. I was told you were staying on the boat for a time, but last Malone checked, the boat was vacant.
Yeah, we moved on.
Not living in squalor, are you?
No, actually. Working on quite the opposite.
I see. Well, that is good to hear.
Yeah. I understand you're worried and wish her back. She's finding her way.
I just want to know that my daughter is safe and that she's okay. She left the safety of the sashes, from what I understand, from what her sister mentioned. So, it is a big city, a dangerous city. And, myself and Louise, we worry.
Of course.
It's good to know that she has some friends looking out for her.
Absolutely.
I've asked something of Ramira. Louise obviously can't offer such things. People always listening in niceties. I also can't say such things, but our deputy ambassador should be able to fill you in on the details.
Okay.
Is there anything I can do for you, though, while you're here?
Not that I can think of, no.
You don't
if
want
you need
me...
anything. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's fine. I was gonna say, do you want some embarrassing stories about Mercy as a child? Well, not Mercy, sorry, she wouldn't say that. She would say, she would say Maria.
Sure.
You want some embarrassing stories about Maria as a child?
Sure, of course.
She tells you a story, you know, when she was a kid about, like, something terrible she did with food or something, you know, just those sorts of parent stories that people tell about this horrible mess that a child once made, or, you know, she drew on the walls, and things of that variety. Something a bit embarrassing, you know, but not so embarrassing. You were gonna say something, though.
If you need anything, need our help with anything, let us.
I will keep that in mind. Where did you say you're from, dear?
Originally,
Sure.
Aruvia.
Do you remember what part?
I don't.
When did you lose your parents? Or are they still around?
No, I lost my parents early, probably when I was around 3 or 4.
Is the name you bear their name?
Yes,
I see. Your mother's or your father's? Or both?
my father.
I'm not familiar with that name. But, you seem familiar. Louise mentioned you remind us of someone, an old friend. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. She says as Ramira comes walking out. Oh, Ramira's like, oh, madam, I don't... Oh, it's fine, Ramira. I was just finishing. She reaches over and grabs a small little white flower, in a sense. She clips it, places it in your ear, kind of brushing your hair back, almost motherly. Thank you,
Of
she
course.
says. And then she walks away, leaving you and Ramira there. With that, the night goes on. There is more small talk and things of that variety, but eventually the party comes to a close. The two of you find yourselves in a carriage with Ramira on your way back to Dunslow. It is late. You've definitely put some drinks in, we'll say. You're perhaps not drunk, but you've enjoyed yourself. You had good food. You had good conversations. Ramira is quiet. She says, there's something Louise and Iria in private asked me to discuss with you, but perhaps it should wait till tomorrow.
Well, we can discuss it now. I think I'm still coherent.
You look like you're ready for bed. Tomorrow, she says.
Okay.
She delivers you to Pond Street. You find your way back to Pond Street, eventually finding your way to the bed, sleeping off your drinks and food, etc. But now we turn over to Blinder and Martin. During the entire evening, when the other two had been gone, what have Blinder and Martin been up to? Were they still in the bathroom? Were they still...
I would say probably for a decent portion of it, Blinder would basically be going over. He almost gets into a lecture mode, trying to guide Martin into teaching him meditation techniques, focusing techniques, things of that nature to help him quickly attune, or at least just get into the habit, to where if he attunes, he doesn't necessarily like freak out from what he sees. I would imagine Martin probably sees the grisly scene that he saw of the person who was murdered in the bathtub.
It actually makes it hard for him to do any kind of relaxation work, because you can tell that the more and more he's looking, the less and less he likes it.
On a personal note for Martin, after his initial brush with the ghost field, the rest of the night he struggles to recreate the same thing. He might get a brief flash or a brief moment where he hears something, but the rest of the evening is spent with him sort of trying at points and then not really being able to fully succeed as he once had. Perhaps the fear of what took place is sort of keeping him from really diving into it as he did earlier in the evening. And so there's this sense of struggle, not only with what he saw and how it affected him, but also with if it's something he's willing to potentially even do again, or is really capable of doing this evening. So
most of the instruction just basically comes down to using things that make it easier to focus. Mirrors, water, crystals. He basically breaks down the difference between the uses of these things and by charlatans and why, what elements of those things that he may be culturally we're all familiar with, like seances and that sort of stuff, but he's like kind of like breaking apart dispelling what is fact from fiction, or at least in his experience. At no point does Blinder pretend to know everything. Everything's aired with qualified with this is to my best knowledge. And everything is also disclaimed that if you were to use it, just understand that the more you look, or you may look for something and you may find something you don't want to find. There's always a danger to it. To use it sparingly and only when you need to.
is this something you're paraphrasing, or is this something Blinder's saying?
I'm summarizing because it's kind of like I'm just summarizing because I imagine it's probably quite a length of time.
Sure, yeah.
Martin seems to take your lessons. He's very interested in what you're saying, but you can tell the entire time there's just something it pulls his attention away every so often, and it's not something it's not something visible in the room. It's just something that you can't really see, but it's something that just draws his attention every so often, and it just kind of you can tell he's on edge.
So he continues to struggle for the rest of the night, Blinder helping to sort of guide him through it as best as he can. At the end of the evening, do Blinder and Martin find themselves individually heading to their own beds, or still locked in study? What does the rest of the night look like for Blinder
Blinder
and
had
Martin?
a meeting with Flint,
Yes.
if you'll remember.
Yes, I do.
Is it getting close to that time? Because it's getting late. So, and we said,
was-
I think.
Just to
Didn't you
remind
say-
you, there was no physical time that was mentioned. It was just
Oh, okay.
a sort of understanding that Flint is a night person. And so going at some point in the evening or during the night is the preferred time that Blinder had found for visiting Flint, because Flint tends to sleep during the day, or what can be called day in Duskfall, and is mostly awake during the evening.
Once he's satisfied that Martin is pretty much done for the evening, he'll be like, "Oh, say his good evenings, things like that," and then sneak downstairs. Go back to his room. And is it possible to slip out the little smuggler's exit and walk because there's like a canalway? I didn't know if it just dropped right off into the canal.
No,
So
there are dikes that board up against the water and against the way, and so there are places that can be walked upon along the sides. Think of it like a bank of the canal.
Sure. So he'll dress and he'll wait until, well, at least Martin's not making any sound, because I don't know what Martin's going to decide to do.
Sure.
And he'll leave. Now he only has he's not adept at sneaking. So but he has like 1 dot prowl. So it's if
Well,
Martin
we won't need to worry about
wants
challenges
to
or
follow
anything like
him
that.
no. I'm just saying if Martin wants to follow him, it is possible. If he's, but it seemed like he was distracted. So
Let's check in with Martin then. Martin, what is Martin's plan for the evening?
Pretty much for the evening, after we've set the bathroom back up the way it was, and everything, is go down to his sleeping area and just kind of lay in his bed, holding the pocket watch Mercy gave him up over his head with like one hand, and then spinning the watch with the other, and just kind of watching the motion of the watch spin back and forth as a thing to try and keep himself from losing it and attempt to sleep.
Okay. So in the dead. Oh, do you have more to add?
I was gonna say though, if he sees someone trying to sneak out or something like that, he may.
Well, as you had said, your door is shut, so you wouldn't see anyone sneak out.
True.
Unless Blinder has lit a lantern or is carrying a candle, you might perhaps see the movement of light or something of that variety.
Blinder would be leaving in a way that would be to not disturb people. So we'll just say, like, yeah, I'm using a hooded lantern. If and he might see the light creep through. Maybe as he's just winding down, he's just like, but I'm moving very quietly. I'm going out the back. So it's your choice whether or not you want to follow me or not. But basically, there would be some sort of auspice of stealth.
Well, there are also other people, sorry, real quick. There are also other people who move in and out of the space. Eventually, Mercy finds their way to bed, which means that there's a light on or something. Carver and Reaper eventually arrive home late into the night as well. So it's not so much that there is a single light moving through complete darkness that would draw Martin's attention. It's presumably up to him as to whether or not he is sort of checking to see every single person that is leaving or coming or going and seeing what's going on, as though he's just sort of restless and bored, right?
Right. He is most definitely restless, just because of dealing with what he saw for the first time. But he's not bored. He's really trying to put it together. He's really trying to keep it together. And like I said, just spinning the watch in front of his face as he's looking up.
So we will then presume that Martin stays behind and Blinder sneaks off into the night.
Okay, so yeah, he'll go and meet. Where is he meeting Flint? Where does he meet Flint? We never
in
really.
the Six Towers. We had discussed that before.
Oh yeah, the very first time. Yes,
yes.
very
There is
first.
an old house in the Six Towers that he meets.
So we're gonna go to Flint's place.
Okay. It takes some time. You travel to the Six Towers district through the night market until you eventually find yourself there. You enter into it. Darkness set across the landscape. There are buildings and houses that are obviously abandoned with perhaps squatters inside that you pass by, looming silhouettes looking out at you. There are street people sitting around fire barrels keeping warm in the dead of night. Blinder eventually finds himself outside of Flint's building. He presumably checks around him to make sure he's not being followed, eventually slips in through a side door and finds himself inside the old rickety building once again. There's a large space, as though the walls had been knocked out. Almost a single room warehouse-like. There's a stairway to an upper floor, but the stairway is broken in places. The ceiling is also broken in other places throughout this building. Blinder enters and comes into the familiar sight of Flint's establishment, in a sense. There are books everywhere, old and new. Some reading philosophy, literature, the arcane, esoteric, children's books, basically any text or literature that Flint can find seems to be gathered here in different ways. There are strange objects set on shelves, a vase, a weird alchemical looking set of beakers, a strange machine of some type. Blinder, looking through the space, eventually sees Flint bent over a table, sitting in a chair, a candle sitting very close to him with a magnifying glass, looking at something.
Hope I'm not disturbing you.
Flint gets up, shocked. Oh!
You really should learn to lock your door.
I have tried. It does not have a lock, you know?
Well, we wouldn't want a situation where one of your neighbors decides to sell you out to the Bluecoats for profit.
I don't think they would do that. The neighbors know me. I'm a great guy. They know me. We're good friends. We're good friends. Me and the neighbor, we're great friends. We share cooking recipes.
Sure. How have we been? How have we been?
How have you been?
No, how have you been?
Oh, I'm great. I'm doing great.
I'm here, I'm greeting you,
Yeah.
saying formalities, usually courtesies.
Yeah, I'm
inquire as to our health and well-being. Yes.
I'm great. I'm great. How are you?
Peachy.
You're peachy.
No, actually I'm not. I have a question for you.
You said peachy though.
Peachy.
Are you not peachy?
No.
Oh.
I have a question. I'm inquisitive.
Okay. Come on in.
He actually does look like he's smiling, like he's humorous. This is probably his normal candor when he's around Flint.
Mm-hmm. It's obvious to Blinder. It's just a reminder to the audience as well, is Blinder has said quite a few things about Flint. And what's obvious from his grizzled exterior, his oily hair, sort of matted and gross, his clothes that don't seem like they're well kept, but barely able to go out in public. He has a hairstyle that is extremely out of date. You might think of, not to talk poorly of a mullet, but mullet wasn't exactly a fashion. But think of, like, if you saw someone with a mullet these days, you might be like, well, the person's rocking a mullet. There's that sort of hairstyle is what Flint is rocking, something a bit old, and people just look at him like, really? That? Okay, sure.
He looks like the guy in Alien Autopsy, doesn't he? Like the big hair dude.
Oh, sure. But I mean, it's supposed to be like stylish in some way. Like it was an old style that used to be done, but nobody does it anymore because now they're like, oh, that's so, 10 years ago, 15, that sort of thing. Right.
That's perfect. That just seals the deal with me.
Yeah.
Okay. So he'll walk in.
And the last little bit, too, is just a reminder to Blinder why people see his sort of smile popping up is that Blinder is used to being the most awkward person in the room. And when Blinder interacts with Flint, it's pretty obvious from perhaps what you've seen so far that Flint is more awkward than Blinder is. Flint is the sort of person that makes Blinder feel like he's, concise and well-formed. Yeah. So Blinder goes walking in, sitting at the table, and there's all these papers set out and books set out, and Flint is sort of mumbling to himself as he's walking over.
I have a couple, actually, inquiries. Although, I mean, we should do some catching up at some point.
Sure. How have you been?
I've been interesting.
Good.
I am not living on the street anymore, actually.
Moving up in the world, yeah?
I would hope not.
I mean, you hope not. What is that? What?
Your contact that you told me was inquiring about my presence. And
oh yeah, like a month ago, you mean? Like a while back?
Well, it seems that there's
yeah, me and him go way back. We're friends, Did he help you?
In a manner of speaking, I wouldn't speak to him. And
oh yeah, I didn't really know him, anyways. Yeah,
I wouldn't. I've incurred some dangerous attention, unfortunately, but
okay.
So I may be coming around infrequently, but
what does that mean?
Well, I don't want to.
Wait, did you say frequently or infrequently?
Infrequently.
Oh, I thought you said frequently. I was like, what?
No. I would never do that. Mm-mm. I do have to be somewhere. If I could just I mean, maybe at some point in the future we could have tea or something, catch up.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll buy. You want to get some dinner?
Not really.
Okay.
I have a couple questions, if I may.
Yeah. Let's talk about your questions. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay.
What's this mean? And you'll show him the.
Well, in most cultures, when you hold your hand up like this, it means hello. And I'm a scholar. I'm an author. I wrote a book about it, and
I have a burn on my hand.
Oh,
it was.
I would suggest some aloe.
Yes, I've been seeking treatment, but the burn has it was because look.
And he looks at it. Whoa. You actually wrote it on your hand.
I didn't have any paper. I was mistaken.
I thought you were joking when you said you put it on your hand. You did. You put it on your hand.
Yes.
You're crazy, man.
Let's relive it. Just continually. What? Nothing. What does it mean?
Oh, it's the symbol for the prism.
Prism?
Yes.
And that would be?
The symbol for the prism. A prism.
What is the prism?
A prism. Place that's light travels into and then is transformed into a rainbow or...
Oh, I know what a prism is.
Yes.
But what is the symbol? Why is this relevant?
It represents transformation. Represents light. Represents fire, in a sense. The sun, you know, things of that nature. It's an old symbol. It's not used in modern day, you know, writing. It's old magic. This is.
I see.
To be something more akin to, you know, things lost in the Deathlands, right? Old culture, old places. Yeah.
Is there any literature on the subject?
No, I mean, if there is, it's lost, right? I once had a book. I lost it, you know?
It's a shame.
Yeah. I used to collect so many, you know, great books. Just really.
Right.
Yep.
About books. I'm seeking
a book.
Books on
I've got a ton of them.
About things. There's somebody's taken my work and copied it and is using it for purposes. There was a sacrifice. A human sacrifice.
What do you do again?
I study things.
Oh, for some reason I thought you made chairs or something.
No. I'm retired.
From chair making?
No, from the other thing.
Oh, I see.
We're breaking Angela. Yes. Are you familiar with a man named Mortis?
Yes. I know him. We go way back. Great buds, him and me. You know.
Is he trustworthy?
No, probably not. Probably. Yeah, I don't really know the guy. Don't really know him. No. I wouldn't trust him. Think of his name.
It's a very ominous name, but you know, I know a Reaper. Very ominous, dangerous person. Never tangle with them.
Are you lying to me?
No.
You know I don't like liars.
No, I'm not a liar.
Okay.
Mr. Withers. Do you know Mr. Withers?
There's a few Withers. It's a pretty big family.
A short while ago, I came into some possession of some spirit vessels that I traded, but amongst the shipment that I came into possession of while I was trading chairs was a small artifact.
You sell chairs again?
I
thought you retired.
I am now. But I'll show him the sketching of the stone. This was found in it. The sketch.
Where do you keep finding these things? He says, and he pulls it over and is holding the magnifying glass over it with a candle. Ooh, this is old. Look at this. And he starts pointing out like the different symbols and things on it, like the portions of symbols. Yeah. It's like, oh, maybe this one. Oh no, that couldn't be that one. That one's too. You would have to. I would have to look. And he says, and he goes off and grabs a few books, and then comes back down and sits down with them and starts flipping through pages. He starts basically taking symbols and trying to like apply them and see if they would fit. It doesn't seem like he's successful for the time that you were there. I presume that there was more that Blinder was going to say, though, and feel free to say that while he's sort of doing this.
Yeah, I was just gonna. While he was, I'll let him start looking over and take notations. I was wondering if I could continue the books I was wanting. I wanted to do more research on this and this symbol, the prism symbol, I guess.
Well, like I said, I
if you
don't
can-
have anything on that. I mean, I used to, you know, I had a great collection, a great library, probably the best library in town, and then, you know, thieves. Youths came in and stole my books.
Books on old languages.
Yeah. He took my books.
Kids these days.
Yeah.
Well, if you have anything or could point me in the direction. It's a fascinating subject. I would terribly like.
In order to
come
find anything like this, you would have to go into the old town.
The entire town is very old.
No, old town, like outside the barrier,
Like-
into old town.
Old town.
Yes, like the first buildings that were made, the ruins of the original Duskfall that sits outside of the towers, or at least a portion of it. You know,
I'm sure there's somebody who deals in these things.
there are people who go out there and scavenge. Yes, most of them die, but you know.
Well, I can't exactly.
This thing,
Mhm.
is probably something from there. There isn't anything about this, otherwise I would have heard about it. You know, I hear a lot of things. I know a lot of people. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Withers, somehow acquired it off of me. I was don't ask. I was intoxicated.
So Withers.
I don't know. I mean, I would assume that if he was
Are you
in the
talking about
market,
old man Withers?
I assume I've never met the individual. Well, I don't remember meeting the individual. I was well, it's something to do with a dice game and a song. I remember the song. I don't remember the man. But just bad influences. Never hang out with a man named Butler Coleman.
I've heard of him. He's a D-bag, that's what I hear. Yeah.
Oh, he's horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Withers, go on, old man Withers.
It's a big
Is there-
family. I mean, I don't know exactly who you're talking about, or which Withers you're talking about. I mean, it's a pretty big family.
There's a Withers who acquired this off of me. I was wondering if he happened to be a collector that you would know of, or
I mean,
know-
he got out of the game and sort of gave up his possessions a long time ago, you know, doing one of those very, like, what is it? Vows of poverty sort of things, right?
oh, I see.
I mean, he still knows quite a bit, and he has books when they're given to him, if I remember right.
I see.
Something like that.
Okay.
Either he took a vow of poverty, or he's the opposite of that. Really rich? No, why would someone take a vow of being rich? That seems weird, right?
That would be a hard vow to take.
Yeah, that would. Okay. So it's probably the vow of poverty thing then. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or chastity.
I mean, he's got sons and kids and stuff. I doubt that he did that. Plus, you know old people.
He's probably repenting.
They like to have sex.
Yes, they do.
Sorry. Blinder's response just fucking broke me. I was doing so well, and then, yes, they do. Like, he's just horrified. Oh, that was so good. Okay.
That was a mental image that I could have done without. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
But speaking of which, do you have any books?
On old people sex?
No.
Okay.
You don't have any. I would like to. If I were to find somebody who knew where to go, I would like to be more informed, so I'm not getting taken, as it were.
All right. What do you mean? Like
Just anything research wise
on the Deathlands?
To this prism stuff or anything around.
I don't have any books on the old ways. That's what I'm saying. Is it's mostly a lot of it wasn't written down, right? A lot of it was spoken word histories and things like that. Some of it was written down, but those libraries were lost. And
Just how am I supposed to qualify if I'm getting the genuine article?
I mean,
unless you can refer me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I know people. There is a lady that I know. She's got a V name. Vinny? Nope. Vivian. Vovoda? Nope, that doesn't sound like a person's name at all. And he just sits there for a while you're waiting, and he's just saying all of these weird words that start with V. And he just doesn't seem to find the right one. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's Vovoda. It's got to be it, right? That seems familiar. Like rolls off the tongue.
Yes.
Vovoda. Mm-hmm.
Vovoda.
Yeah.
It's.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it's not Vovoda.
Probably not.
Yeah. She's cool.
I'm sure she is. She has a V name.
Yep.
That you can't remember.
Yeah, you know how it is. I got a lot of knowledge up here in the big noggin of mine. Only
Lots
so much
of knowledge.
Space. Yeah. Only so much space for things, you know.
Thank you for the withers thing and the explanation on this. And well, the sort of explanation on this, but and
what have you been up to these days, Blinder?
Sort of found some work.
Okay.
And we have a new enterprise.
Oh, okay.
We are returning prosperity. Yes, to a small part of the city, very, very small part.
That seems noble.
Trying.
Well, good luck with that.
Yes. And if you happen to have any, if you could think of that V name, Vovoda, or maybe arrange a meeting, perhaps, if you know this person.
Vanna? Is it Vanna? Vanna?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
Well, if you could maybe reach out to them and arrange a meeting.
They usually come in every couple weeks. They're usually in Dunslow near the gate.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They're one of the guides. You know, how prisoners are sent out into the old town. And if they recover stuff or if they survive so many times outside the wall, you know, they're given, they're set free. I think she was one of those or something.
I see.
Maybe she's like their
guide. So I'd very much like to meet this person.
Yeah, she's got some name, Vanna, Vovoda. I don't
Well,
remember.
if you could mention that somebody is inquiring your presence would like to meet her.
I'd have to
and-
go all the way to Dunslow to do that.
But she comes in here every.
No, she comes into Dunslow every couple of weeks.
Oh, I see.
At the gate, because there's a gate from Dunslow out past the.
I see.
Yeah.
Never mind. I will just the gate V name.
Yeah, she's a scavenger. There's not a lot of people that are scavengers though, so I mean,
Shouldn't be hard. Do you have a description?
Yeah, she's a woman, probably mid-30s ish. Pretty. I mean, she's a little dirty, but she's pretty, if I remember right.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, her and I dated a few times. No, we didn't. No. Thought about asking her, but no.
Really don't believe you. Yes.
I mean, that's fair. I thought about asking her. I didn't, though. I thought about
Not
it.
that
though.
you couldn't. Not that you couldn't.
Well, I appreciate that.
I just think you're a little in the.
I'm a little
You
too
don't seem like-
intense.
You are. You're a lot.
It's true.
All right, I'm going now.
I probably blow her mind.
Bye.
Bye. And then Blinder walks off awkwardly. Okay. Blinder heads back, eventually finding himself back at the Pond Street pub, sneaking back into the hideaway, heads to bed. And for the last little bit here, before the break, we turn to Martin, who, although tried laying, focusing, eventually, as happens with all of us, exhaustion sets in. We slip away into the night, not even realizing it. As Martin dreams, he finds himself in darkness. He looks down at his hands in his dream and sees blood dripping from them, falling off into nothingness. He starts to hear whispers, calls, laughter, but not joyful laughter. It's sickening. He hears screams for help. They are whispers in the darkness, and as he pushes through it, he sees nothing. He feels nothing. Just a cold. His body feels numb, and he loses himself. He feels something rush past him, and now he's in some sort of river. A dark river, thick, deep. He sits at the very center of it, unable to swim to either side, freezing in its cold embrace. There are hands reaching through the inky black water towards him, pulling him in under its surface. They are speaking his name to him. His real name. He's pulled deeper and deeper into this icy embrace until the lungs leave, or his air, the air in his lungs leaves its last little bubble. He finds himself floating there. He sees faces moving through the shadows. And then he sees the face of the man who died in the bathtub staring at him. There's no calm here. There is only terror, fear, darkness, cold. The man reaches out and grabs Martin's throat, and he's helpless and powerless. Then he wakes up grasping his throat, and it's the next morning. He sits there in the morning, his dream still heavy on his mind. Fear creeping over him. What does he do?
Slowly and not very carefully, Martin drags himself back upstairs, making sure not to, reveal the under part to anybody upstairs. But he makes his way upstairs. At this point, he keeps clutching the pocket watch in his left hand, and just kind of keeps ringing the chain in his fingers. And he slowly goes about making a cup of coffee, and then just kind of sits there at the breakfast table or whatever we're using as a meal table, kind of staring out the window, and then every now and again his eyes kind of dart up the stairs toward where the bathroom is, and his clothes are all disheveled. He didn't wash, he didn't shave. He looks like he's going through it.
Currently, he is the only one awake, and he sits there with his meager food, drink, etc., left in contemplation as to the experiences he's had, his dream, his nightmare, and these things that Blinder tried to teach him. It is the next morning for all of the cast. Our characters slowly wake up in their different ways. I believe they will eventually have much to talk about, but we will have to do that when we return, as I believe this is a good point to take our break. And we find ourselves with all of our characters waking up. Martin at first sitting alone at the table, and slowly as time goes on, he's quietly drinking his tea and staring at his pocket watch. Others start to rouse. Others start to wake. And at this point, I will pass it off to the cast. If you wish to engage in conversation regarding what had taken place or what you found, that is completely up to you.
Is this a entire house breakfast sort of thing, or is this just a meeting with the crew? How does the other
That would be completely up to the rest of you. You guys could, as you wake up. Yeah, sure. As you guys wake up, you could, if you were interested in it, you could be like, hey, let's go talk privately or whatever. So sure, feel free.
If anybody asks Martin to go talk privately, it's you actually have to ask him you have to say his name a couple times to get his attention. He seems very distracted.
So Blinder will point out, I found I had a my meeting with Mr. Flint last night while you were out partying. If we could talk about that for Martin. And then he'll give those like sort of knowing glances after not getting his attention right off the bat to Reaper and Carver. Like, we should just wait until everybody else clears out, and then we'll have our download, as it were, our conversation.
The Reaper is making bacon and eggs and coffee.
Where's Mercy?
Mercy is not within the hideaway. She seems to not be within the Pond Street pub proper. You don't see her anywhere. As breakfast goes on, though, she eventually walks in the front door with a box in her hands. Simple little box.
I'll greet her at the door.
Sure.
Hey, Mercy.
Yeah.
I was wondering if we could talk.
Sure. Yeah. You want to help me with this? She says, holding the box.
He'll take the box.
You realize it's quite heavy for how small it seems to be. It's quite heavy. There's a sort of shakiness to it. You can hear something shaking inside.
Where do you want it?
It's not mine. It's yours.
Where was it?
Found it outside of Welsh & Sons. There's a letter on top of it.
I'll look at the letter.
The letter was stabbed with a knife through a wall, and the chest was nearby. It says "The Risen" on it, on the envelope. Are you opening it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll open the envelope.
Yeah, you open it up and you see there's a letter inside. It's written quite well. Whoever wrote it has decent penmanship, so they had studied. It writes, "To the Risen. My pardons for my omittance of the truth. By now, I presume Reaper has shared with you the truth of my desire. As was requested, payment should be given. I owe you, as I had agreed to, but please accept this small token. I understand what it's like to be small and young, and I hope that you do not have to suffer through these things the same way I did as a child. Signed, Corin."
Carver will take the box over to the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And he will open up the box.
There's a key inside the envelope, a little key he finds as well, and it goes to the lock on the box. Opens it up, and he finds bags of silver. Roughly 4 coins worth of silver.
Carver will close the box, put the letter back in the envelope, and bring it over and lay it in front of Reaper.
Okay.
Reaper will. What's this?
It's yours.
The letter. Read the letter.
Same thing I said. It's basically
Yeah.
Corin, regarding
toss
your
it back.
conversation, etc.
I'll toss a bag of silver to each person.
Okay.
As you see the silver hit the table in front of Martin, you get a little bit of like recognition out of his eye movement toward the bag, just because it was like moving. But as soon as he sees it, he just continues to go back doing his kind of staring off into space thing.
I'll
Kinda
snap
stare-
in
kinda
front of him.
Huh.
You awake in there?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah,
wrong?
Not sure I really want to talk about it right now.
Oh. Well, we should probably have conversations in different places.
Yes. Now that breakfast is finished, I believe we have the space to speak. Blinder will, of course, wait until the others have filtered out, more or less, to go about doing whatever it is they do on a daily basis. And
I presume you guys find yourselves in the kitchen, the hidden hatchway to the hideaway, etc. Knowing that if you're inside the Pond Street pub proper, you guys know that with the number of people and it being morning, people are probably going to come in and out. So you guys wait, shut the kitchen door, head into the hideaway. Martin, yes.
Just for notation purposes, when you say you threw silver to everybody, do we just mark down a coin? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be the assumption, yes.
Just asking.
it seems like we all had a very interesting night. I would like to well, first, what is this gift? We received a present? Is this something we should be concerned about?
No, I went and took care of the deal last.
Oh, okay. Oh, very abrupt, but very well. Everything's good with Cord, I'm assuming.
Yep. Everything's square.
He'll look at Carver and then Reaper and then okay.
Everybody could read the letter, by the way.
Binder will pick it up, give it a read over, and then put it back down. Okay. Well, let's move on. Unless anybody else has anything else to say about this.
Upon reading it, does anyone wonder what Corin is referencing? Because as I pointed out, remember there was he had admitted something to Reaper, and Reaper obviously hasn't talked about it, so she never admitted what it was.
Binder's noting it, but he's not saying anything.
Okay, that's fine. I just I wanted to remind everyone of that, just in case it sort of slipped the players' minds that was something that was mentioned in the letter. It wasn't mentioned in specific detail, but it was made obvious that there was something he was hiding, right?
We remember.
Here's a question I have for the group. How much do we trust Mr. Blind to be in these meetings?
Sorry, your Discord cut out just a tiny bit there. Did you say Mr. Blinder out of character?
Yes.
Okay.
Why is this a question?
Because he basically told us that he was using us as his personal bodyguard. Somebody that he knows is coming to kill him, and we are his brick wall.
And someone's looking for Martin for revenge.
But we're not
And-
Martin's brick wall. He would lay down his life for us.
And I don't know if you remember this, but Blinder has risked his life for us as well, or at least myself. Bullets are a hard thing to dodge.
Reaper is correct in the questioning. And not to relay any sort of or be reductive in any sort of manner to Mr. Martin's plight. Lord Strangthorn Strangford is a powerful political figure, undoubtedly, but and is certainly a threat upon Mr. Martin is to be taken extremely seriously, but Skurlock is an entirely different level of danger, and I would not. I made my mission because while originally I did not understand or trust in you, I could not live with the guilt of unwittingly putting you in unwitting danger. If you were to stand next to me, understand that there's a very real possibility that when Skurlock finds me, and I say when, you will... Death is a light suffering. And you should know that if you wish me to excuse ourselves, or excuse myself from these venturings, I would not blame you. But while I'm here, I do commit myself to this endeavor. I did not have to follow you this far. Anonymity was a security, as it were. In very many ways, this venture has made me live. When you found me, or when I met you, I should say, I was a corpse walking around. I was no more alive than the ghosts that I hear whisper to me. I was a remnant of a thing. In very many ways, I still feel like that, but at least now I have something. I will excuse myself for a moment and let you decide and come to that decision. I do have some information for you, so after you make your decision. Yes. Anyway, I will. Yes. Go upstairs. I think there was some bacon that looked rather appealing. And Blinder will walk out very nervously, obviously. But there's a look of resignation on his face, like he already knows the answer.
After Blinder has left, Martin will kind of pick his head up a little bit and look at Carver and Reaper. I don't think we should kick him out. Because, yes, he may have had the intent of doing the thing, but he didn't. He told us about this danger before it got sprung on us like a trap. So at least we know to keep aware of it. And to be perfectly honest, if we lost him, I don't know what I would do right now. I didn't see much, but I saw enough to know that I need help understanding it. Because I don't even know how big it goes. I don't know. He does. I need him if nothing for that. If nothing but for that. Plus, it seems that we're meeting other crews and gangs that use ghosts and spirits as a tool or as a weapon. Keeping him around rather than trying to find another one like him, I think is far too valuable to lose. Especially since we haven't been hurt by this Skurlock person yet. And that's my 2 cents. And Martin goes back to kind of ringing the chain in his fingers and kind of staring down at his watch.
Well, aside from the obvious, the fact that we can use him just as easily as he uses us, as a symbiotic form of a relationship, he has a vested interest in what we've created as well. And it goes beyond that, because there are these moments, despite what he says in those callous words, you can tell that there's feeling, emotion, connection there. You can't hide that. And he tries to. But he's dog shit at it.
Can one of you guys bring him back in?
I'll go get him.
Walk upstairs and he's holding a mouse. And he puts it down real quick. He's like,
Lunch?
No. No. It is never mind. Let's
Yeah, let's.
yes. Something very awkward. Do you mind if you go first down the stairs?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I'll go first.
So he comes walking back down, like, and he's just looking at everybody like, "Hey, how you doing?" And his back is like to the wall, standing right next to the staircase. So we came to our decision.
Reaper's gonna get up and walk over to him and get real close, like in the bubble. Not in his face, but in the bubble. The guys find you valuable. You find us valuable. You can stay, but if you betray us, I'll crush everything you are and everything you could have been. And then she'll walk away.
Noted. Well, now that we've had our morning intimidation, I did visit Mr. Flint last night. There was time. Sorry I did not bring anyone. Carver, you were with Reaper, and Mr. Martin, you seemed to need the rest. So Mr. Mortis has passed. Well, Flint isn't known for his honesty, but he generally makes reasonable recommendations about people who he, well, doesn't trust, but at least knows won't necessarily sell him down the river. Mr. Mortis seems to be a person that we can approach with a reasonable assurance of security. And I've learned more about the symbol that I copied from Mr. Connor. It is in a language, an old language. All I understand is just the symbol for prisms, something about transformation, light, and just other things. In order to find out more, I would have to acquire materials that are very difficult to acquire. They are sourced from outside of the wall. I do have a contact that I could seek. And now that we are concluded with our affair with the billhooks, I also think that, since we should probably discuss what we are, at least acquiring some financial injections into our enterprise so we can begin dealing with the matters that Mr. Martin is dealing with and continuing on our investigations with Mr. Carver's situation. Yes. And I did find out some more information about. You remember the stone that we took from the Lamp Black's theft? The one that I lost. I'm a little closer to finding out more about it and who might be in possession of it. Although I do not know if that relates to anything that we are preoccupied with. Mr. Yes, that is all I have. And he'll just kind of. He's more or less actually talking to Reaper at this point because he's like, been baited. He's just like, bellying up sort of thing,
Carver will pick up the small satchel of coin, or large satchel, the silver bag of silver that Reaper had tossed in his direction, and he will hold it in his hand outstretched towards Reaper.
What do you need?
Take it.
Why?
Well, as Blinder has stated, we need funds to be injected into whatever we, as a collective, will need.
So you want to put it toward the group?
I abandoned the mission. This is
No.
not mine.
There's an even 4. You can keep yours. You're part of the group. You're part of the group. If I have to take a day off, I still need to make some money, right?
Then if this is mine, then I trust you to put it to good use.
Okay. That's fair.
So I presume that coin then is going to go into the vault? Okay.
I was more speaking of the actionable information that we have still considering, which, mind you, might be ellipsing soon. The information about the operation in Night Market that we had received, maybe that is a good lead of where we may be able to acquire funds. That there is something going on in this episodes ago. Is it Pearl Street? I want to say it's Pearl Street.
Pearl Row.
Pearl Row.
Pearl Row. I believe that we should that is actionable information potentially still, and conveniently it is also located in Night Market, so maybe we can inquire from Mr. Mortis. Should we arrange a meeting or be able to arrange a meeting? I don't know. I don't know how we would go about meeting this individual.
Maybe ask the gondoliers.
Well, I sort of know where he is roughly.
Gondoliers are huge gossip.
But didn't we just frame them for a job? Like, I'm lucky that we can get around town. I mean, I'm quite frankly astonished that we haven't accidentally fallen off the boat, as it were.
Oh, I have something to share with you guys as an update to Corin. So he is actually Aaron's nephew. Aaron is Daddy Bill Hooks' brother. And she doesn't want him to come out of prison. So Corin's going to use that information to get him out, presumably. And I made the deal with him that he owes us in the future. So I don't know how Daddy Bill Hook coming out versus Sister Bill Hook is going to be going down.
Well, considering the fact that the patron of the Bill Hooks was the one who established their reputation to begin with, and we are aligning with them because we will benefit off their reputation of fear. I would imagine it would be good should they succeed in their endeavor to reclaim their their power struggle. Should it end up, I mean, it very well could not, but Corin and seems like a very efficient person. I believe that he would be successful.
So our debt with the Bill Hooks was paid off by Corin's boys under Corin's direction. And then this job was just Corin's job. So we're even with the billhooks, and we're even with Corin.
Good, good.
Well, Corin knows us, but
Yes.
I would say that Cora knows us pretty heftily.
yeah, I would say so too.
Well,
I also met Lillian Strangford. I had a conversation with her
When did you do that?
last night.
Oh, she was at the party?
Yeah,
Did she mention anything about me?
not at all.
Okay.
where was this party? All I know is I saw you come in and you were wondering if we wanted to go to a party. I looked out the window and there was a very extravagant coach.
Marty was at the Aruvian consulate.
Really? That is quite a step up from Dunslow.
Oh,
It gets better.
It does. It does get better.
Very few of those individuals have even seen this part of town, as opposed to. I'm. How did you end up getting into this?
I slept with
That's
the
where
right
it gets
people.
better.
I slept with the right people.
Carver will look over in shock as Reaper says that. And he will wait for her to give him a sign or something. Otherwise, he's holding his tongue. And to Martin and to Blinder, it does look like Carver is visibly holding back information.
I don't think Martin's even with it.
Huh?
No, so we met. What was the names? Correct me if I'm wrong. We met Mr. Luis Lagos and Rowan Lagos. Was that correct?
It was Luis Diaz Lagos and Iria Rowan Lagos.
Iria Rowan Lagos and Luis Diaz Lagos, who are the ambassadors, I believe, the Aruvian ambassadors. And they are none other than our favorite person, Mercy's parents.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Martin's jaw visibly just drops, and that kind of off look he had kind of shakes for a second. Huh?
Mercy Lagos.
Lagos. Good to know.
Blinder looks visibly terrified.
What's wrong with you?
Nothing.
No, see, no. If we're gonna trust, we're gonna have to know. And when I asked you if you wanted to come to the consulate with me, you said absolutely not. And then you stopped. And now you look like you're gonna shit your pants. So what gives?
I just well, I have enemies that negotiate such circles. Enemies who have harmed me. and the details of which, the more you know, the more harm may come to you.
Okay.
It is not something I'm...
Just keep you away from that ilk. I got it. I got it. I should probably be straightforward with you guys and let you know that many, many years ago, I left Aruvia because I crossed someone there, someone's group. And I won't be frequenting those visits to the consulate very much anymore, just in case. But there is somebody that I'm looking for that I met on the first time I went.
Who are you looking for?
Was his name Amir? Michael, was his name Amir, my childhood friend? Okay. Well, I found her. Never mind. I was looking for a friend, and
I just
sorry,
realized
go
that
ahead.
I was muted to the audience, so I'm going to repeat what I just said. My apologies, audience. Ramira is Reaper's childhood friend that she knew, who was also an orphan that she grew up with on the streets of Char Hollow. They separated in Reaper's teens and went separate directions. And she went by a different name back then, but Reaper does remember the name Ramira being used at one point in time. So that is this friend that she sort of reconnected with. Anyways, feel free to continue. I just wanted to make sure the audience was aware of that as well.
So your endeavor to go to this party wasn't just to, well, slum it with the highbrows.
No.
I see. Okay. Why did Lily Strengthorn...
She prefers to be called Lillian. And we talked about, she picked me out and figured out I was a +1 that didn't really want to be there. She just basically talked about the state of the world right now.
Like in a spiritual context, or what?
No, political context.
Oh, that's
The
very short.
oppression. Very what?
I said that's a very short conversation.
It was sort of. She spoke about Scovelanders and Scoveland and the oil and
Yes. That is yes, it is a thing.
yeah, I'm in the middle of learning more about it.
Well, what do you want to know?
I mean, I don't really know much about it. I've
Never-
had my head buried in the sand.
Never been there myself. I was born there, of course. I was very young when we immigrated. The pollution is terrible. My mother was sick from it. We had came here to try to seek better medical treatment. From what I've been told, there's nothing to be said of any sort of assistance like you can garner here, even. But here we are treated like second-class citizens. During the war, we didn't even really have rights. It's It's not something I got wrapped up in after my mother died. I moved. I like to think I have not gotten mired. I've seen many of my countrymen, I suppose, get caught up in the anger. Some sickness, pain that just inflicts more pain. Cycle. There's nothing I could do about it, so. But I could. But this is very tangential and unnecessary. If you wish to know, we can have more conversations about such things. It's not, but I warn you, it is very depressing. Go ahead. Sorry.
You hear a knock at the entrance door.
I'll answer it.
You open the hideaway latch door, and Mercy's standing there. Malone is here, but not for me. He mentioned Reaper.
Oh,
I'll get up and go out there. I'll be back, you guys.
Mercy gives you this face like, what the fuck is going on? And sort of follows you all the way to Malone, and then just is sort of looking at Malone and looking at you, and Malone is very quiet, and he bows to her, and then he says, Madam Reaper, would you join me?
Of course.
Guides you outside, you walk sort of quietly down the street, and you see a carriage waiting for you at the end of Pond Street. Quickly, though, before I go to that, what is the rest of the characters doing during that time? Are you guys continuing your conversation, or are you sneaking to watch, or what are you doing?
Binder's going to take this moment. If Martin is still kind of out of it, if he's showing interest in the Reaper thing, then, he'll leave him alone. But he'll look over at him. Are you okay?
Okay, so your plan is to engage with Martin in a thing. What is Martin and Carver's plan then during this time?
I plan to engage Mercy in conversation.
Okay. And then Martin, did you have anything on your mind?
I would just carry on the conversation with Blinder.
Okay. Okay, so then we'll return to those conversations. But first, Reaper was walking with Malone down the street, finds himself at the carriage. Very nice carriage. Not the same one from the night before, but a different one. This one's a little less decorated and such, a little more meant to blend in a sense. It seems like a nice carriage, but not so flourishy. Ramira is waiting inside. Malone opens the door for you. You climb inside. He shuts the door, and you hear him climb up onto it. You had seen a driver up there. Ramira is sitting there. She's wearing more dressed down clothing. She still seems like she's dressed for business, though. She's still wearing a nice dress. But definitely not the gown that you had seen last night for the party. She is sipping on a drink. She offers you one as you sit down.
She'll take one.
She pours you some and hands it over. It's like a very nice sort of champagne. Exactly. I was unsure how to engage this conversation. Do you speak for your group of people?
I do.
Excellent. The ambassadors, as I had said last night, cannot engage in such conversations. But they are concerned for their daughter. And I would be lying if I did not admit to also being concerned for her at times. Giving up her life of seeming luxury to live however is questionable. But I would pass along that there is a amount of compensation that the family would like to provide you and your own in order to continue doing what you're doing, as long as Mercy remains safe.
I would have to talk about that with Mercy.
Sure.
Or not with Mercy, with, I would say, Maria.
Sure. Alone, or do you want me present?
How about alone?
I'll drop you back off.
Okay.
So you guys circle around and then head back. We'll turn now over to Blinder and Martin, the conversation going on during that time.
Watches them walk out. Stops Martin, maybe, if he's going to move. Are you okay? You do not look well this morning. I didn't want to say anything in front of the others, but
I'm mostly okay. Like, physically, I'm fine.
yes.
There's... I don't know... When I see what I see there, does, like, part of it come with me? Does part of it come back with me?
It is not your what you're seeing there is not, you are not in one place and it is another. It's like this coin. You see how one side of it has been painted red?
Right.
And the other side is a normal coin with the Emperor's figure.
Okay.
This side is us. And this side is the ghost field. It is an echo, but not an echo in a cavern or place where your voice is projecting outside. It is an echo of ourselves inside. Think of it like if you were to press your ear against a person's chest while they hummed, you would hear the vibration inside of them, right?
Okay.
A heartbeat or any sound that was taking interior. This is a very similar thing. So yes, in a way, you do carry it with you.
'Cause I had a nightmare.
And you may have more vivid dreams. You have to understand, we as the human race, at least as far as I've researched, did not develop this naturally. This is an acclimation to our environment as it currently now exists. Things used to be much different from what I understand. I don't know how they were different. All I know is they were different.
Does it get better?
You can grow accustomed to it. You learn, like any muscle, when you can flex it, when you cannot. As I said, when you look, be careful of how far you look. Only gain what you need to gain, and sometimes you will be shown things that you did not expect. But as a race, we have shut this door because most cannot live with it on a daily basis. Understand that I if you need anything, I am not always having the answers, but I very, very much understand what it is. If you are having a difficult time, I understand what you are going through.
One of the reasons that I wanted to learn how to see was to be able to look at this watch as it presents in the ghost field.
Well, the watch only gives you what it carries with it. An impression. As I said, it's an echo, not on the outside, it is on the inside. If it has an importance, sometimes you may not know what its importance may be, only see a flash or an impression. Maybe it's a collection of impressions.
So it's unreliable?
No. It is difficult. The solution will not always present itself easily to you.
How do you deal with it?
That is a question that I have not yet found the answer to. Many times I am standing here feeling like I am barely holding myself together. It's not, I used to be much more confident of a person. I do not always see things, but I always feel like it is eroding at a part of me. That is why I caution you. It is a tool, but there is a seduction to it, and if you go too far, you may find yourself, well,
Eating rats?
no, hearing things that have never been alive.
What do you mean?
Voices in the darkness. Something you never want to understand. Well, I almost got. I was very close. I hope you don't think I'm untrustworthy now.
On the contrary, the fact that you told us about your connection to this whoever the fuck it is and how dangerous it is, you told us that before whoever he is sent his goons.
Yes. I don't.
So,
For that matter, I don't know if he has goons. But anyway, yes.
that and I need you. Because you understand all this ghost field stuff. I don't.
I really don't.
You know it way better than I do. And I need help.
I can help you.
I think at that portion of the conversation, this feels like an excellent point to transition. Unless there was something very specific that you needed to finish with there, Blinder.
Nope.
Okay. I didn't know there was more to that comment.
Blinder will,
I can help
try
you.
to dodge and basically.
Okay, so he's
get out of
basically just being
conversation.
dodgy and get out of the conversation. That's the sort of feeling I was getting there, so I figured it would be a good point to transition, because the assumption is eventually Blind will be like, I need food, and then he'll leave or something, right? So we'll now move over to Carver, who is followed Mercy, Reaper, etc. up, and is engaging Mercy in a conversation. Please, Carver.
So he'll close the kitchen door and the hatch and kind of pull Mercy to the side and
Into the kitchen?
Yeah.
Sure. She'll follow him in there.
So this is about the party that we were invited to last night. I now understand why you wish to remain absent.
Yeah. I mean, I figured it was, it's Unity Day party at the consulate. Obvious my parents are going to be there, kind of a thing. Did you meet them?
Well, they were the hosts.
Yeah.
And yes, we did meet them, and we were socially ambushed.
They do that all the time.
If I get a sense from your, I believe, father, right? Luis?
Yeah. He's my father.
He is extremely concerned, as any parent would be for their child. But he has just asked that we do our best to take care of you.
Okay. Was there anything else he said?
He asked me what you were going by these days, and I elected not to tell him because keeping your alias a secret upholds the veil that you obviously put there. It's not my decision to break that veil. And quite frankly, the main thing that I told him is that it could threaten your safety by telling him that name.
I think that's a good point. I'm glad you didn't tell him thank you for that.
I believe that your mother ambushed Reaper, and I'm not sure what conversation they had, but I can assume that it was much the same.
They are quite the team. They're like a pack of wolves. Divide and conquer.
That being said, there was an air of expectation that I don't think that we've covered when it comes to you as a part of this group, Mercy. And that is that, at least as far as where I'm standing, you're just as much a part of this as any of us. I understand you have skills that make you far more useful than I'll ever be in combat.
You're not bad with a knife.
Probably to attribute the red sashes for that.
I mean, I was trained at the Sword Academy, so.
That being said, I wouldn't hesitate to put myself in front of a gun for you.
Why?
You've helped us out. You've been there. You've been there a part of the horrible, awkward conversations, and you've been there through the periods of levity that we've had. Probably as the biggest proponent of those periods of levity. Honestly, we might not have become the group that we have if it weren't for you.
Even though it might be my fault that all of this shit happened to Martin and Aldo and everything?
Honestly, I don't give a shit. That all happened as circumstance, and we'll deal with that when it comes. We've all done fucked up shit.
You can tell there's like this like emotion is falling over her. You can see she's trying to hold back like tears. Not like somber tears, but sort of like joyful tears, like when you hear something that you just didn't expect and it sort of takes you by surprise, but it's like a good thing, like you're just overwhelmed, right? Yeah. I appreciate that.
From my perspective, what you want to do with your life is your decision, and obviously your parents have expectations. Your parents have their own desires and plans for you. That's the folly of being a parent. But I'll stand by whatever decision you make.
She gives you a hug just out of nowhere, just sort of hug in the same way that she had sort of hugged Blinder randomly and he stood there awkwardly. I presume, though, Carver, not being as awkward as Blinder, actually like hugs her back, laughing probably a bit.
He'll just hug her back.
Yeah, whereas Blinder stood there like, what is happening to me? Yeah. So about that point, Reaper comes stepping back up the entryway to the Pond Street pub, the carriage outside. Ramira still sitting inside. The door opens into the main room. You open up the kitchen door and you find sort of Mercy and Carver engaged in a hug, basically, as the door opens. And they...
Oh, that's disgusting. How you guys doing? Hey, Mercy, can I talk to you for a minute?
It was a friend hug.
Yeah, gross. Don't touch each other. Ugh. Touching sucks. Hugs suck.
Someone needs to get laid. Jesus.
No, time for the other perspective.
What's up? What do you need to... Oh, yeah. Okay.
So your parents offered us compensation to keep you safe. And I was wondering how you felt about that. I didn't want things to get weird between us if I do accept it.
Can I talk to all of you about this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so she shuts the
Carver
kitchen
will
door,
open up the hatch.
opens up the hatch. You guys call in Blinder and Martin. Blinder and Martin hears, hey, get in here, kind of thing.
Blinder looks relieved. He's just like,
yeah, we'll say right about that point is when Blinder was like, yeah, so, this has been good. Oh, hey, Mercy's calling us.
Look right there. Somebody wants to talk.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Martin will also make his way up.
Yep. So you find yourselves in the kitchen. Mercy is there. Reaper, Carver. Will you repeat the question statement so that Martin and Blinder can hear it? Because I have a sort of follow-up question that is for all of you.
Mercy's parents have offered us compensation to keep Mercy safe. And I want to know if we accept this, how this is going to affect our relationship with Mercy. Because I would rather have her as our friend and ally rather than somebody who resents us.
I can say that I already know how Martin feels about me. That's not a question in my mind. Carver and I literally just got done having a conversation about this very thing in a way. So, I've poured myself out to all of you, admitting my involvement in this whole catastrophe that sort of befell Martin and Aldo and everything. So, I gotta know, how do you feel about me, Reaper? Do you...
I think you're a good friend.
And so even if you said no to my parents, you would still want me around. You would still want to be my friend.
Of course, yeah.
What about you, Blinder?
Initially I didn't know what to think. I suppose, well, I like you as a person. I think I have a good sense of what your motivations are. I've never 100% trusted you. Both for both for the reasons why we met, and I have a very difficult time trusting individuals, people, but I don't think that your intentions are malicious, and I don't think that you'll betray our trust, for anything I've seen anyway.
Okay.
I don't trust your parents.
I don't trust my parents. I mean, I know what they're about, but yeah.
Quite frankly, I would rather have my connection to your parents be as distant as possible, or if we had no choice, to be on their good side. And that is for my own self-preservation, you must understand. Although I do sympathize for your situation.
Well, I mean, with all of you having shared that, I don't have a problem with it, honestly. I used to be part of the Red Sashes. I stepped away from them. I've been helping you guys along the way, and honestly, I was sort of just waiting for you to ask me to join. I mean, I'm not obviously going to be one of the leaders like y'all are. You're the founding members in a sense, right? You make the decisions. But so far, I haven't disagreed with pretty much any of your decisions. So I don't have a problem helping out and doing what I can, adding my expertise when you need me. And if that's the way y'all feel about me. Does it look like Martin wants to say something?
Martin was waiting for her to get done talking.
Okay. And if that's the way y'all feel about me, then I don't have a problem with my parents secretly compensating you all. This isn't the first time they've done shit like this. This probably won't be the last time they do shit like this. The fact that they're working through a mirror means that there will be less heat on it, which obviously means they're covering their tracks. I don't feel like it's going to change how I feel about all of you if you do take the money. I mean, if they're willing to give you guys money to help you on your way, then, that's better for you, right? I would be very specific about what their expectation is. Like, make your expectations very clear when you accept it. Say, sure, we'll accept, your compensation, but you literally have no right to tell us anything. The only thing, basically spell it out for them what your expectations are, that you will agree to take care of me or something, protect me or something. Okay, yeah. So just
right.
Be very clear about your expectations.
Such as you do not have the right to tell us to tell Mercy to come home?
Yeah, I mean, all sorts of stuff like that, right? Because, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So just be very direct and very clear. You got something on your mind?
May I point out that they are giving money to criminals?
They do this already.
So, yes.
You realize that the Red Sashes are completely founded by pretty much the Arubian nobility, right? No,
I didn't, but that is frightening.
Most of the Red Sash members are actually children of the nobility. They're the ambassadors, the wealthy elite, the super rich merchants, the nobles, lesser nobles. When in their parents' eyes, it's when their kids go through that phase, right? So they send them off to the Sashes for a time, and then eventually they return home or whatever, right?
That's interesting. We should I've just thought of your new position. You are the master of hazing.
You have tasked me with something I'm quite good at.
Mm-hmm.
You will never be displeased.
And you have no idea. No idea. And Martin will walk up to Mercy and kind of give her like a big wide hug.
Brotherly
And
hug, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And say loud enough for people to hear, but kind of a whisper to Mercy. I already thought you were one of the Risen. I just didn't figure I needed to do the official invite.
That's why we needed Master of Hazings.
And at this point, she's unable to hold back the tears, and she starts crying, like she almost did with Carver. And she's like, like that sort of like joyful, happy crying. It's not like overwhelming or anything. She's not like or anything like that. There's just tears sort of coming down her face. She quickly wipes them away, staying tough, that sort of thing. But yeah, just Martin's words, obviously, just that final straw. So yeah, go get money from my parents. Okay. She says.
So I'll be right back.
I want to say that the only other thing that I ask for is I want a room downstairs. It doesn't have to be any of the fancy ones. Can we just make one of those nooks like my room, put up a wall or something? I'd like to have a room. I'm tired of sleeping on a cot in a random corner.
I'll get on it.
That's all I ask for. Otherwise, I'm good with how we've been working. So yeah.
Oh, the study has plenty
I
of
ain't
space.
staying in there. That's
Yeah.
where the vault is. That's weird. And you're always in there, like, with candles. What's with the three candles? What's with the 3 candles? She says as she's, like, starts walking off downstairs.
Okay. I could stay in the study and she can have my room.
Sure! You hear her say.
Well, that settles that.
So Reaper will go back up to the carriage, unless what?
I do think before that the money that we receive should go towards its purpose we should begin by giving back.
We should begin by owning this pub.
Very, very correct, Mr. Martin. Thank you for. Yes.
So just saying, if we're coming into a whole lot of cash, why not
Purchasing property would probably be smart. You are absolutely correct. I oversight on my part. I apologize. Go.
Because if you were about to suggest a boat again, we were going to have that talk.
Don't we have Mercy's boat?
I have a boat.
Yeah, see, Mercy has a boat.
Hey, bonus.
You hear her, like, she comes to the end of the tunnelway, so you answer, and she's, like, holding a bottle that she's obviously squirreled away somewhere, and she starts shaking it and then pops it open, and she's like, now that I'm official, the boat is ours! And she starts spraying it up the hallway, like, getting it on blinder and stuff. Champagne for everyone! Whoa! And she's just spraying it. She starts screaming Master of Hazing as it's, like, bubbling into Blinder's face and stuff. And she's just like, this is what you wanted!
Created a monster.
You should be happy you got a boat.
Yes. We have a boat now.
Okay, so
Mercy
Reaper will
stops
go
and
back
she's
to the
like,
carriage.
now that you have a boat, you literally have a face like you have no idea what to do with it.
I don't. I just wanted one.
Well, now you have one, sort of.
Dream has been achieved.
Okay, so Reaper goes walking off back towards the carriage that Ramiro is sitting inside of. Malone is standing off of the carriage, smoking. He nods to Reaper, and Ramiro comes stepping out onto the porch. The first time she's actually gotten out of the carriage on Pond Street, and she steps onto the porch and is sort of looking at the place. She's like, it's not a bad building. A little bit of cleaning up.
Yeah, we're doing what we can. So, do we want to speak inside or stay right here?
Your decision.
Well, I think we're going to accept.
Excellent. They wanted me to ask a few things.
Sure.
Well, being friends, I wanted to give you the first retort, as it would be. Is there anything else? I mean, you said you wanted to accept. Is there...
I wanted to make sure that this is for her protection only. We don't have to make her come back home. She gets to do what she would want to do. We're just here to protect her and make sure that she's safe.
Well, that handles all of my questions then. I presume that is your letter of the law, in a sense, in order to accept this?
Of course.
Well, I'll pass that along then. That's acceptable from what I've been told. And presumably, as long as you fulfill your end of the bargain, whatever shape your relationship with Maria takes is up to you.
Okay.
Well,
Would you like to come inside and have some bacon? We have
Well-
bacon.
sure, she says.
Okay.
Sort of like not
I'll sort
sure.
it.
Yeah, I'm already here. Sure. And she follows inside.
So she'll bring her some tea. What kind of tea do you like? Because we have a lot of different kinds of teas. Or do you like coffee
I'll
better?
let you choose. Eunice watches her walk in. She wasn't looking out the window, and she just gets this like these open eyes, like, "You are so lovely," she says, like under her breath, and then sort of catches herself, like, Remember's like, "Oh dear, it's fine."
Oh, look.
Clem and Marvin are just like wide eyed, like, damn, but they don't say anything, Virgil is off and upstairs probably with Aldo.
Does Eunice engage her in conversation?
No, Eunice seems way too bashful. She like said her
Okay.
thing, and then Ramira responds, and then she's immediately just sort of like this, sort of like,
Hey, Eunice, this is Ramira. Ramira, this is Eunice.
"Nice to meet you," she says, and Eunice doesn't even speak. She's just like, "Oh, you're so lovely." This sort of like bashful, almost like a fangirl kind of thing. It's weird.
Now, the stairs going down are closed right now because of the kitchen door, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to stand at the kitchen door. Can Ramira see me where I'm standing?
Yes. There is a secret thing, though. Remember,
Right, I'm just going to speak
she's not going to see you. She's not going to see you if you hit the little latch that closes the hideaway door.
Okay,
Because remember,
I'll
there's
hit
like
the
a
latch.
secret. There's like a secret thing that we added in. That you guys added in that you can hit to basically make the thing shut or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's open right now, right?
It was. I presume when
Yeah.
the door opened and you went outside, though, that they closed it, or that they
gonna-
shut the door immediately, kind of a thing.
I'm going to kind of at the door be like, blinder.
You hear a clunk, and then
Okay.
you hear footsteps inside and some yelling. Mercy opens the door. She's holding the bottle that's like mostly empty at this point.
What's good tea?
We don't have any.
Okay, what's the good tea that we have?
This? Why?
Oh, because Ramira's up there and I want to impress her, but we don't have good tea.
This isn't going to impress her
Oh,
at all.
rude.
But you can make it for her, and she'll pity you.
Well, what about the rest of the tea that we have?
Oh, good. To give it to her. She'll give us more money because we need to buy good tea.
Okay, fine. I'll go make tea.
Just
Close.
Mercy pulls you in, Reaper, and she's like, "Did you guys used to have tea when you were kids, or anything like that, or any flavor that you used to know when you were a kid?"
No? I had water.
Okay. We had very different childhoods. Okay. She says, and then just goes off and starts helping Blinder find tea.
Okay, I'm gonna go upstairs then, or I'm gonna go back upstairs.
Oh,
Take
I-
her-
I could assume that sanitation standards, by that, like, water sanitation isn't a thing in this universe, is it?
It
'Cause it has,
is
like,
sort of.
ectoplasm steampunk sort of technology.
Yeah,
I don't
they
know
do
if
have the technology to clean water and stuff like that. So yeah,
Okay.
because obviously they can't drink the ocean water or anything like that. So yeah, there are cleaning technologies, although
Okay.
albeit they require money. So in the worst parts of Dunslow, they might not be that great.
Okay. So things like cholera and things like that, like diseases like that were endemic during the late 18th century are still very much a thing here, but only because of poverty, not because of the lack of ability to sanitize things because of the technology.
Sure.
That's the only question. It's a side question. I
Yeah.
know it's just small.
I was trying to understand. I was like, are you trying to give her like salmonella or something? Like, what are you doing? No, I understand what you're saying. Okay.
No.
Yeah. So you eventually Blinder arrives with tea. Ramira takes a seat that is offered graciously by Clem. He's like, "Oh, please, here, take mine. Here, take my chair." And yeah, and he's like kind of posing nearby, kind of. How you doing? She just like gives him that like, "Oh, thank you," and then just doesn't pay any attention to him whatsoever. Oh, thank you for the tea, she says.
Tea. Yes,
yeah,
here's your
Blinder
tea.
arrives with the tea. She sips at it. Oh, it's orangey.
Sorry about that. I was going to say something and I pressed the button because I started laughing so hard.
No, you're fine.
Carver's gonna walk outside and ask Malone for a smoke.
Sure. He pulls out a little case, pulling out one and hands it to you. They're hand rolled, but very finely rolled. Is there more conversation going on inside, or was there Carver planning to talk to Malone about something? Just so I can check where we should be. Everyone's very quiet. I'll presume there's some moments of awkward silence going on in the Pond Street pub right now.
Blinder's actually not going to be in the same room as Ramira. He's actually going to avoid.
So he brought out the tea and then he leaves.
He brought out the tea and then he just left.
Okay.
After and maybe he'll because I laughed because maybe he'll the origin comment. He'll actually kind of chuckle.
Sure.
Because he would probably find that funny too.
Oh yeah, sure. That's probably something that he thought to himself when he tried it. He was like, "This tea is very orangey. Like it's not good, but like how do you give a compliment to something that's like and be polite, but it's obviously not something that's good, Oh, it's very, yeah."
Reaper's definitely just gonna have small talk with Ramira.
Okay.
Just yeah.
Was there something that Carver wanted to talk to Malone outside about?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So we'll move there. Carver and Malone standing on the porch outside the building.
Is the driver of the carriage the same guy as the previous evening?
No. It's another Aruvian man.
Okay. Seems weird to me that Reaper would attempt to, impress Ramira here with our very unimpressive offerings given the places that we've been in evening past.
He smiles. Well,
I have to wonder if this is if something like this is viewed as a being polite, or if it's more of an insult.
You see, Ramira comes from humble roots. She grew up in Charhollow. Without wealth, the bastard child of a noble. She did not know the finery. She grew up just like Reaper did. In fact, they knew each other. This is not my story to tell, but some of these things, they are nostalgic for her. Although it was not Dunslow. But still, I know what it was like being a man from simple roots myself. I rose to my rank through a military service. Sometimes it is the smell, the old wood. Tiny bit of dust. It's different. The creaky floors, You come from wealth, it's obvious. So, there are probably things that you miss. In the same way, the same vein.
Well, I can understand that people mistake my composure with etiquette, but it's just observation. When you're on the outside fringes of what you hope for one day, you observe and you learn, you mimic.
My friend, Malone says as he draws into you, you forget who you speak to. I'm a Sash, and we know who you are. I will not make such comments.
Ghost what?
Your secret is my secret.
Carver will take a very hefty drag off of the cigarette. And he'll look at Malone again. Well, I guess if that cat's out of the bag,
No
I
cats
might
are out of
potentially
bags.
have questions.
No cats are out of bags. I put two and two together based on what Mercy said, the previous conversations, the interactions with Madame Rowan, and of course a few newspaper articles. This is something that I've realized. Not anything I've mentioned to anyone. There is nothing in my contract in which I must tell my employers everything. I pick and choose what to tell them, as is my way. I did
Have
not
you
feel.
heard anything about a train incident?
I've heard nothing about such things. I only know who I believe to be a young man from a very different world, a very different family, who traveled a very long distance and is presumed dead. That is all I know. Everything else is your story to tell, my friend. And perhaps that story can be told on a different night.
Perhaps.
So after a small talk for a time, Ramirez is like, well, it was very nice. Thank you for the bacon. Thank you for the tea. But I need to be heading on my way, of course. Yeah. She thanks you all, shakes your hand again, Reaper. Says, we should spend more time together soon.
Yes, we should. Always a pleasure.
And then she leaves. Malone following, hopping onto the carriage, and off they ride.
Before they leave,
Oh, sure.
I'll look at Malone and Ramira both and tell them if ever you need anything from us, whether it be a very bland or orangey tea or, well, anything, don't hesitate. You're welcome here.
Malone nods, and Ramiro of course, responds, "Oh, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day." She steps inside the carriage, door shuts, Malone hops up, and off they ride. You're left there now with the normal crew of the Pond Street pub. So, things you wanted to say to each other? Or are you sort of left in the silence of everything that's taken place?
Charlie walks in and he looks like he's seen a ghost.
Okay.
Binder will walk back up once he's confirmed that Ramirez left. And, now that we're done with these personal affairs, I think,
That was all business. Well, most.
it seems to me like the Risen
Have a boat.
and a job to do. Let's talk about plans.
Where's Mercy?
Probably off shaking a champagne bottle somewhere. So, at what Blinder says, the rest of the crew gather in and start discussing plans. They spend some time doing so. For the last portion of our episode this evening, sometime later in the day, something happens. A knock at the door. A polite knock. But then a voice is heard outside. "What are these fangled locks? Who put these on? Who put these on here?" They hear outside. Eventually, someone opens the door, and the man that's standing there is a man in his 60s or 70s. Gray hair, fuzzy on top of his head, dressed fairly nicely. He walks with a cane. You can see a simple open-topped carriage down the street with a driver. He's looking at all of you. He peeks inside past the open door, and he's like, "What are you doing in my pub?"
To be fair, we were supposed to buy it from you, but we couldn't find you, so we were waiting till you showed up.
Well, you found me. And I think that's where we will end tonight's game.